Hello, hello, everybody. My name is Ned, and I have with me Heather Wilson.
Hi.
Hi, Heather. And we are doing a Buddha brunch. It has been so long since I've done a Buddha brunch show. It's a show where I bring on spiritual leaders, artists, philosophers, anybody and everyone, talk about culture and art and all those cool things, spirituality. It's long overdue, and I was feeling the need to talk about some stuff, and I called up my old friend Heather, and it turns out she was feeling it too. Divine order. Yeah, I know Heather back from I guess originally from Silent Unity and stuff like that. We both have a lot of intersect in those worlds. Call it New Age, New Thought. I have not really stayed involved with those organizations and institutions or groups as much, but I still always feel myself connected with that. I would still consider myself a Buddhist or a Buddhist Christian or something along those lines. But Heather, where have you been? We haven't really stayed in touch. Where have you been spiritually, and what have you been up to?
Well, spiritually, I'm still on the spiritual path. I definitely, after Silent Unity, when I worked there, it was 2016, I kind of shifted out of my spirituality for a while because I kind of like the spiritual bubble just kind of burst for me, and I started to just kind of take things inward, and that was an interesting journey. So I'm kind of making my way back to my old practices of spirituality, and yeah, since then I'm living full-time in an RV right now with my partner, and I am a women's empowerment mentor, creating that business right now. I've been hosting every Sunday soul circles for women, where we get to just be in a safe, sacred container that's non-judgmental, and we get to express and just share whatever's on our heart, and just helps us to unpack things that have been weighing heavy on us for however long. And the goal is to get to where we're just unpacking things on the, like, what's coming up that day. We get to like peel the layer of the onion to where it's like we're just like processing things all the time and being able to release that. And yeah, so I'm just building a program right now and just been working on supporting women in their journey, those with autoimmune conditions who feel medically traumatized, like traumatized by the medical system, and just helping them to reclaim their health and their sanity, and so that they can feel better.
Awesome
Yeah.
stuff. And that is essentially the topic I wanted to talk about today. In this crazy world, in this world gone mad lately, over the past year and a half. And you might hear Heather and me using some code words or not mentioning certain specific words, just because that can be heavily censored, or some of these social media platforms tend to remove those things or just really crank them down in the algorithm. So we might be kind of talking around some things a little bit today. But speaking of our new thought, new age, hippie friends that we both have been immersed in one way or another, I'd say you probably more than me, but we have that connection and background. To me, it seems like over the past year and a half, let's say, there has been a big turning away from things like holistic medicine, vitamins, exercise, prayer, affirmations and denials. These things that we would say are, I don't know, traditional for this sector of folks who are into that hippie, new agey, and I'm saying that affectionately. That in no way that is do I mean that as an insult. And there seems to be a turning away from that, to embrace big pharma, corporate, institutionalized treatment and things like that. So Heather and I want to try to figure out why. And what are your initial, I don't know, what's your initial response to that?
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting just kind of watching and witnessing, those people who I went to, hippie festivals with and were just like on the spiritual path with and got to watch like, living life similarly. And then now they're kind of shifting back to big pharma. To me, what comes up is I feel like when this big situation happened, a year and a half ago or a year ago, in 2020, I feel like it was kind of very sobering for a lot of people and those who were in the on the spiritual journey. There's a lot of like spiritual bypassing that can happen when you're like in a spiritual bubble. And I feel like for me, that burst in 2016. And I feel like maybe that burst for a lot of people when this happened because it was such a surreal experience and it was just like pretty jolting. So I feel like maybe those people were jolted out of their spiritual bubble and it caused them to like be really confused and to question everything and to kind of like just like push all of that away because it no longer felt safe and all of that. So that's kind of what's coming up for me as I've been thinking on this is that, yeah, it just feels like people are kind of jolted out of their spiritual bubble. All of a sudden that felt unsafe to them. And they're just like, I'm going to go back to what I remember before I went on that path and just started questioning all that they've learned. So like my partner said earlier, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, it's kind of like that, just like tossing it all aside, even though that journey was very beneficial, and was an experience. So that's one thing that comes up. And then just like the fear and pressure, that is out there with the media constantly bombarding your TV, your phone, your everything with all this fear-based stuff. And yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. What are yours? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, and you've shed some good light on that. I hadn't thought of it that way as I don't know, a spiritual bypass, as you said, or going back, returning to what had worked in the past or what seemed safe. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to try to not get political or try to not write off people who disagree with me political, because I hear that so often. People say things like, this should not be a political matter. You should just do what's right. Well, anyone could say that. If you think anyone who doesn't agree with you is getting political. So I'm going to try not to do that, to paint that anyone who is not agreeing with the way I want to approach health and solutions to this situation. I don't want to paint them off as, oh, they're just doing that because they're being political. So I will do my best to do that. That being said, so we had a thing happen called Trump. A lot of people were surprised. I was surprised that he won the election back in 2016 and got into the White House. And so many people were not prepared for that. I think the jolt you're talking about actually goes back a few years to then, to November 2016, when he won the election. People were not ready for that. There was so much disbelief and shock around that. A lot of people, a lot of our hippie friends spent the next 3 years just trying to deal with that, and there was so much non-acceptance of the reality, just pushing away from that, so much resistance that this festering hatred built up and division built up. So anything associated with the Trump, the Donald, of whom I'm not a fan, by the way, just to make that clear. But anything associated with him was bad and wrong and had to be pushed away. So when this health situation around the Schmovid came up, anything perceived that Trump was saying, that was wrong and bad. So somehow along the way, it became perceived that he was anti putting the schmashks on, or the schmaccination, getting the jab of the hut in the arm, even though I think he is actually for that. I think he's come out saying he is pro that. But anyway, so it became I'm on the right side, I'm against him, so I am for this. I think that's a big part of it. And yeah, just the social, the push, mainstream media and social media platforms, advertising, government promotions, just constantly pushing these corporate, the big pharma solutions. Um, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you that, I think it did start the bubble being burst did start back in 2016. That's when I experienced it. Like it was a very sobering year for me, and I did spend the next, gosh, like, 3, 4 years trying to figure out, what I believe now and everything, and started questioning everything. And yeah, so I definitely see that having had happened. And then I think just this just recent stuff just kind of threw it out over the edge. Um, and also, yeah, I saw the whole triangle of victim, villain, and hero definitely playing out throughout, the Donald's presidency, and then into now where, he was portrayed as the villain. And like you said, like he had promoted the jab of the hut. I like that. That was funny. He had promoted that, and everybody, even Biden, was like questioning, saying, do you feel safe to get this? I don't feel safe to get this. I just saw something about that. And then once, the new president started talking about that, then everybody was like all for it and immediately trusted him. But when the other person was in presidency, it was just like, no, this is bad. This is unsafe. It's not even approved, blah, blah, blah. It's so interesting just how that just made a complete shift. And all of a sudden, the new president is the savior and the hero. And it's just like, yeah, that triangle's been playing out, and it's just been so interesting to watch.
It is. It seems like 2 years ago, some of the very people who were telling us, who did not want to eat food that was genetically modified, now they are uh, getting themselves genetically modified, and and damn well sure they want to make sure everybody else becomes a GMO.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really interesting. I've been very surprised by some of my, like, people in my, what I thought was, my circle, just like having a completely different viewpoint than me, which I thought we were always on the same page. And then all of a sudden, I just saw the space in between, and I'm like, whoa, this is really interesting. I wonder what's going on for them in their life and what they're thinking about, and why, they're choosing to go that direction, when I remember having deep conversations like so against those things, or like totally like not into that kind of stuff. And it's just like, what's going on? And I think a lot of it definitely has to do with all the fear-based jargon being pumped out there, because you're in fight or flight when they're keeping you pumped with fear. You're in fight or flight, and you're not able to think with critical thinking, or really have, discernment that's from within, as easily as when you are, in a more rest and relaxed kind of state.
Yeah.
So I feel like that has a lot to do with it, keeping people in that like chronic fear and anxiety space. It really affects the way that we're processing this whole experience, and in our view, the way that the lens we're seeing everything through.
You bring a great piece to it of empathy. You mentioned
Mhm.
trying to imagine what they're going through, trying to see what they're seeing, or what has brought them to where they are. And that's a really important reminder for me, because I can so easily, you know, see it for somebody else, and look at what they're going through and say, boy, they just don't see it. They're a fish, and they don't even realize they're in water. They don't know what they don't they're not aware of how drastically Facebook or YouTube is censored. That if you ask, I'm just using like a typical imaginary typical person, but if you ask them, they would say, no, Facebook is fair and even and all that. But because they're so immersed in it, they don't into that the beliefs and the messaging that's been just uh, pounded onto them for the past, well, at least a year and a half, like we talked about. So again, you give me a good reminder to practice that empathy, um, and to ask for myself, well, what am I missing? What are my blind spots?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's a great question to ask ourselves because we can also get really immersed in our own, our own like new age, new thought kind of bubble too, and be missing some things outside of that as well. So yeah, I think it's great for us to all kind of continue asking those questions to ourselves, like, what am I missing? What is life like for that person who's, has a different perspective than me, and what's it like for me? And yeah, that's why I love, there are some people out there that are starting conversations like what you're doing here, was just having conversations about this and being able to speak to people who are for, getting the jab at the hut, and those who are not for that, and like just having conversation about it and seeing what's going on in their mind, what's their thought pattern, what's their feelings about it, what's coming up for them. Because I think whenever we take a look at that without the charged judgment and the just like, our really strong beliefs and convictions about it, when we can just set that aside for a second and just like hash it out and have understanding, then a lot really reveals itself, and we're able to really like see through their lens and what they're seeing, and just have understanding. And if we can just meet there in understanding, I think that it could make a lot more ease and comfort in the world right now for all of us, instead of all the divisiveness and the attacking and the villainizing and all of that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And again, I need to remember that for myself. I saw a friend, someone who used to be a friend, someone I used to interact with and perform improv. I'm an improv actor, or at least I used to be, in the Kansas City area here. And someone I loved playing with, and we were, pretty close. I recently saw something she posted saying, I need to take a break, seeing all of this anti-snacks, some is actually a word that rhymes with snacks. um, seeing all of this anti-snacks stuff is triggering me. And my initial thought, I didn't respond to her or reply or anything, but my initial thought was, where are you seeing anti messaging? All I'm seeing is pro everywhere. I'm seeing inundated with so much messaging on the social media and in mainstream. It's all pro snacks, pro Jabba the Hutt, and you have it's that overwhelmingly is what I'm seeing. So I wanted to say, where are you seeing the anti stuff? But you know what? You're right. I need to see things from her point of view. To her, in that moment at least, she was overwhelmed with the anti-messaging, and it was triggering for her. So that's her legitimate experience. And I need to do my best to just be open with that and have empathy for that, even if that's not my experience.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. It's really a great way to look at things, and to, yeah, just having empathy is going to go a long way during all of this, if we can just like put our own stuff aside for a second and really just hear somebody and hold space for them to express their experience, is like going to make such a huge difference. And that's something I've been sharing online in my online space. I'm seeing a mix of both on my news feed, and so I'm getting to kind of comment and respond to both things. But yeah, it's definitely sometimes hard to respond from a grounded space when you're being attacked for your viewpoint and your choices. And so, yeah, just staying grounded, it can be challenging right now with, especially with those people who are, saying really harsh things to those who are choosing not to receive it. wishing death upon them and and wishing that they get sick and all these different things, which is just, yeah, that can be very triggering and harsh to hear. Or just calling those who oppose it selfish and saying that they're putting other people at risk and killing people. And that's a lot for someone to carry. And like, that's a lot to put on somebody. And I don't think it's fair because they don't even know that person's life and what they've been through and experienced that's brought them to this decision that they're making about their own wellness. And so, yeah, taking a step back and really starting to have conversations and asking people, like what makes you choose what you're choosing? Why are you for this? Or why are you against this? And like, what's going on in your life that's brought you here?
Well said. Well said. Leapfrogging off of that, what else, what can we do? What are you doing? What do you recommend other people do? And you can take that wherever you want. What can they do as far as this political divide and separation and trying to heal that? And what can people do for their own health and well-being?
Great question. That's something, yeah, I think we've all been navigating is like, how can we, maintain our own homeostasis and peace and inner calm, like during all of this chaos that's going on around us. And so I think that one important thing is taking breaks from social media, like your friend did, where she took a break from her news feed because it was just overwhelming. I think that's important to listen to that sense of overwhelm and step back, just like, don't get on to social media for some time if you're feeling overwhelmed and it's just like really heavy. So yeah, taking space, cutting that out for a little bit. And, sometimes I go into like focusing on looking at things that are like kittens and puppies and, watching videos of animals and happy, positive things that kind of lift the vibration. So as much as you can, like seek out comedy and lighthearted things that can kind of bring you back into your center when you're feeling overwhelmed. Some other things are like moving the body, like actually like shaking. I like to do shaking a lot, where you're shaking out all the nerves, the stress, the anxiety, and like really like letting all that move through your body and move out through shaking, through dancing, through movement, because we end up storing all of that in our physical body. And so the more we can release it, the better. And then just like having safe people that you can communicate your truest, deepest feelings and fears and worries and concerns that are coming out, where you're not going to be judged, where you can actually let it out and just be held in that space of that. Is so important, I think. That's been helping me with my mental health and being able to stay sane during all of this is to have those safe places, those safe people that I can express, what I'm really thinking and feeling, instead of like, because the online space isn't necessarily a space for that, because there's a lot of attacking, and you're going to hold back what you're really feeling and thinking if you know that you're walking into the lion's den. So for me, I like having those safe people where I can just like be totally raw and honest and get that out of myself and get that off of my mind and yeah, just be witness in that. So that's what I think can really help. What
I love
about
it.
you?
I love it. I have gotten I've gotten political. By that I mean I'm involved in politics, running for office, helping others run for office, going to rallies and just getting involved in these causes. I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican, by the way, for anyone wanting to put me in a box. I'm a libertarian. I would say I'm an anarchist. I'm for total peace, total nonviolence. If anyone needs to figure me out before I go further with where I'm going with this. So I'm pretty immersed in that, and that can become pretty heavy stuff. So again, this is a great reminder to take a break from it periodically, and to play and to laugh and to do that which nourishes me. As a matter of fact, now here in the Kansas City area, the Kauffman Center has just gone, and a number of other big venues, concert and ballet and halls like that in the area. have announced that they are going to, I'm going to use the word discriminate. To me, it's discrimination. They're going to not allow people who don't have proof of the schmaccination, the schnacks, the jabba. They're only going to allow an audience. And again, I get it. There may be in their mind healthful reasons for that. So I'll just leave it at that. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that that's the motive behind it. But that being said, so there's a whole group of people now, artists and performers, as well as audience and directors and producers and people who love and cherish the arts, but are in that group of people who are not, for whatever reason, maybe their own health reasons or philosophical reasons or whatever it is, are not going to get that thing put into their bodies. So they're left without these. There's a big hole now. Without being able to perform and take part in the arts. So there is a group of us, it's really early at this point, but there is a group of us working toward creating venues and opportunities for people, you know, if you're a classical artist, an actor, improv actor such as myself, or singer, dance, you know, all the performing arts, as well as, you know, visual arts, to create those opportunities where you will not feel discriminated against.
That's really beautiful. I love that you're creating that. I saw that the other day about the Kaufman Center, and I was very upset. You know, it's just like, you know, not that I go there often, but you know, it's nice to go there sometimes. But yeah, I love that you're creating other opportunities for those who, you know, are now being discriminated against and not being allowed to go to certain places. And it's kind of, gosh, it feels like when you're a little kid and, you know, you have that friend that just is like, sorry, you're too short, so you can't come on this ride with us, or sorry, you're too this, so you can't hang out with us, you know, and it's like that feeling of like not belonging and feeling left out, you know, it's that sense. That's kind of what this has brought up in me, is that childhood wound of just being, you know, abandoned or rejected because I'm a certain way, and that's not cool.
It's not cool.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Anyone watching this, by the way, if you're interested in that, if you're an artist, a performer, or you love the arts and you want to go find a place where you can go to a play, and there's not going to be requirements about what you do with your body, your own medical freedom there, you know, it's kind of like a no questions asked type of situation. Contact me, find a way. I'm sure there'll be, you know, you'll be able to find me through whatever platform you're watching this on, or just search for me. And if I'm not specifically involved in this program, or you know, the contact person, I'll get you in connection with the contact to find a way to get more involved in that if you're interested. Speaking of which,
I'm definitely interested.
Good. Speaking of which, I think we're at a point where we can wind this up, wrap this up, wind this down. And it sounds like we have lots more to cover. So I would love to do this again sometime.
Yeah, I would love that too. I think it's just great to have these conversations and open the door for these things, and yeah, just give people something else to ponder on and think about, and just different perspectives I think are helpful. So yeah, I'd love that.
I appreciate that. I'm glad. Where can people, do you want to tell us more about your soul circles for women, or anything else, or where people can find you?
Yeah, so Soul Circles it's a women's circle that I hold every Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Time. And you can go to my Facebook, which is, if you search Heather Wilson, you'll be able to find me. And so there, if you click on the link in my bio, you'll be able to access my link tree, which will take you to, you'll be able to choose Soul Circles, or I also have another offering called Soul Expressions, which is a deeper dive for women who want to work one-on-one with me. And that's a 90-minute session where we unpack things. If you have like trauma, or you know, just any life experiences that you're needing to unpack in a safe container to express in. We also I can also bring in some Reiki and hypnosis. I'm a certified hypnotherapist. So we can bring in all kinds of different tools to help you release and get exactly what you're there for. And so that's another service that I offer. And so you can also find me on Instagram at Heather Raquel Wilson. And that's my middle name is Raquel. So Heather Raquel Wilson. And yeah, there's also a link in my bio to click in Instagram to access my Linktree services. So yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. People do reach out to Heather if you're feeling inspired. I know I have been today. Great reminders, great insight. So do reach out to her and find more ways to connect. I look forward to connecting with you more about this topic and others. And it sounds like empathy for me. My big takeaway: empathy is the word of the day.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway. I'm going to take that one too.
Well, thank you, my friend. Peace and love.
Peace and love. Bye.
Bye.